I bet this has happened to you. You had a plan, then you changed your plan. And then you changed your plan again. We're at Plan C here on Becky's 39 Dodge Pickup Project. I'm excited to share with you where I'm at. We're doing some real, true, hot rod stuff on this thing. I'm not even sure I can pull it off. But I'm going to take you along for the journey. Stick around. I'm Mike, and you are watching My Car Shop. So what we have here is not a failure to communicate, but it is Plan C. So where we're at is I have quarter wall 2x3 box tube, 8-foot chunks. I have 4 of those that I had purchased a couple years ago for the Golden Mullet. They've been out in my steel storage building where I keep all my my raw steel. I went out and dug out a couple of those pieces. I have a K-frame out of a 76 slant 6 Valiant here. The steering box, some of the steering mechanism, lower control arms, upper control arms, spindles, 1 disc brake, if you remember from the Challenger project why that is. And my hope was to be able to use the K-frame out of the Valiant, modify it for V8 mounts, and pop that in there. But we have problems, so let me kind of bring you around here and show you what the problems are and where my headspace is at the moment. I'm going to show you this in more detail in a minute, but the issue I'm having is the clearance that I need from the motor mount to where the radiator is 14 inches, and that's pretty much the same. These mounts are in the same location on a V8 K-frame, which is what this is. I've got it here for reference. I'll explain that in a minute. And our issue is we're not anywhere near enough for the front of that water pump because this still needs to come back another 6 inches. You can see where our spindle is here, where it would be if it was on there, and that's actually, that tire is actually centered in the fender opening close enough. That fender's not as bent, unfortunately. This one's really bent, but so this whole K-frame assembly needs to go further forward. No, not really. The whole radiator fender assembly needs to come back another 6 inches or so to get things centered up. So let me pull a couple things apart here, and I'll show you something that I learned that I guess I knew, but I didn't know that I knew. And I've talked to a couple of other Mopar guys, and they went, yeah, I guess we knew that too, but it wasn't obvious until you look at it in the context of this. I've seen these parts forever. I had a million K-frames. I used to sell them on a regular basis, but I never really paid attention in the fact, in my mind, I always thought that the control arm was centered in the K-frame, but it's obviously it's not. You can see that the lower spindle mount goes in the back of the K-frame and then goes out straight from there. So in my mind, as I was planning this project, I was thinking that we would have, lots of storage or room here, but I didn't realize that we were like 16 inches back from where spindle center was from K-frame. So once I started putting it on the frame rails, I went, huh, what do you know about that? Like I said, I talked to a couple other Mopar guys too, and they went, yeah, we knew that, but we never really paid attention to it because I don't know of anybody that's ever done a project like this on, starting from scratch on a tube chassis and built something like this. So doesn't mean they're not out there, but the guys I've talked to weren't aware of it. I just about gave up on this. I just about said, all right, this isn't going to work. Obviously, I can't. But this has to come back 6 more inches, which basically sets the bottom of this radiator support on the K-frame. Then there's just no way that these all is going to fit because the motor is going to be sticking out the front of the grill and there's no place to put a radiator. I thought maybe if I could fit it in there, I could do a remote radiator, or the motor would be low and the radiator could be high with the hoses coming in the other side. I had all kinds of ideas because this is hot rodding stuff. But I came up with a much better solution, and that's what we're going to work through today. So what I want to do with you guys today, and yes, I've done tons of legwork, and as this is an AI-assisted project, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok And I have had lots of discussion. Chat seems to be the smartest one about this, and there's some reasons for that I'll get into in another episode. I also tried, there's one other one called Perplexity or something like that. That thing is dumber than a box of rocks. Anyway, we'll get into that at some point. We'll give you the pros and cons of AI-assisted builds. But what I want to do right now is I'm going to leave the K-frame in its position because it's pretty close to where I want it. I might move it forward just a little more, but the rails are kind of subjective here. What I really need to do is get the fenders and the grill shell moved back to where I think it needs to be, and then look at it that way. So let me move this around a little bit, and then we'll be right back together again. We're going to change your name from Thing 2. We're going to change you to Old Yeller. Oh, you are? Yeah, you're feeling hungry. Yeah, we got to get you some food. That was kind of an exercise in futility because of this slant 6 motor mount scoop so far forward. So to fix that, I'm just going to get my cutoff wheel and chop that off to give myself plenty of room to get that radiator shell up on there. I tried a bunch of different ways and nothing was working. So let me get that done, and then we'll get this radiator shell up in here. Hope is that somehow this is going to work for me. I'd like to find one of my little pieces of this. There we go. Yeah, hopefully this will squeeze us down and help hold us in position. We are a little cockeyed. That's pretty good. Okay, that works. Here's what I like about this. The front end on a lot of these old vehicles, and I'm almost positive this Dodge is the same way. It's a floating front end. My 47 is that way, Model A's are that way, the Oakland is that way. It all centers on a pivot down there so that there's a lot of flex, because the frames on these originally were very flexible and they didn't want to crack the front fenders. So what I'm liking about this is there's a hole right here in the K-frame that center bolt mount goes right over. And it's almost like it was made to do this. So if we do decide to do this, there's a lot more coming, so don't go away. Because this is the real hot rod stuff right here. If we decide to do this, then we're going to blow all of this extra stuff out of here. This will stay for the steering box, but these motor mounts will be gone completely on both sides. It'll be nice and clean, and it almost looks like it was made to be that way. The proof will be in the pudding. I've got my tire lined up basically with the center of where the spindle is going to be, plus or minus. Yeah, so I don't know about this yet. There's a couple things I got to do, but let's see if this ballparks at least. Ish. Pretty good. Yeah, I could go back just a little bit. Fender needs to go back just a Nova. Let's see our... Oh yeah, she's forward quite a bit. Okay, that's pretty close. Yep, that's pretty close. Yeah, that's really good, I think. I would rather that the tire was a little forward in the wheel well than too far back. So that fender's in really good shape, and I've got things lined up pretty well. This fender is absolutely roached. I think I've got the wrong control arm here because of the way this is. The way the Dodge works is the front of the ball joint is always a little bit, the top ball joint is always a little bit forward of the lower ball joint, and this is cocked like this, so I'm pretty sure this is the control arm from that side and vice versa. So I'm going to pull this off of here and switch that out. and put this fender back on as well and see where we line up. But this is kind of proving my concept here. So the problem we've got is, you notice where the motor mounts are. We've got a job of work there, but I have a solution for that also. Like I said, this is the real old school hot rod stuff. This is what I love to do. Pretty close. Yes, that looks phenomenal. I think this is going to work. It's hard to tell. We don't have good views here, but if I get back far enough, yeah, that looks centered now. Good, this is coming together. It's still grabbing a handful of air, but I feel like we're getting there. Once we get a chassis table set up, get this all on a chassis table and really start bearing down on it, we'll know better. Yes, we have inches matter and stuff like this, so we have room to wiggle things, but I'm loving that this goes right into that hole. All those mounts can go away. The back set on this, if I remember right, is 14 inches from from the front of the water pump to the front of where the motor mount needs to be. So let's get a tape measure and see where we're at here. Let's assume that our radiator is going to be inside of this bracket here. Hope you can see that. And let's come back 14 inches, sorry. That puts, nope, sorry, that's where the flange of the motor. So yeah, I want to be 14 inches to a thick radiator, so it'd be about right here. So we could fit a radiator in here, have room for our fan, all of that stuff. So we've got to allow ourselves 16 to 18 inches. So what we're literally doing, let's say 18, 17, what we're literally doing is setting this motor mount, which is pretty much the same spot as the V8 motor mount. This is a slant 6 K-frame, back 17 inches, okay? So what we're going to do is I have this other K-frame, and we're going to put that other K-frame in. This is the wrong drag link here. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. So in essence, this will be not really here, and we're going to basically lop it off right here, and our drag link will be right in front of it, and these should be right at 17 inches back where we want the motor to sit. I don't think we're going to have any interference with anything once this is up in place. Torsion bars could be an issue. That's why I want to set this up. I'm going to move it back further right now and clamp it down just so I can double check and make sure that we may have to clearance this for torsion bars, and that's fine, but our torsion bars are going to go from here back a long ways to the rear transmission cross member where the torsion bar rear mounts are. So we need to make sure we have clearance for those to come through. Yes, this is going to be back way too far. I don't care about that right now. That's going to be a problem. Every time I think I got a solution, I come up with a problem. Maybe not. First of all, this is not going to be here. Oh, none of that's going to be there. So we're only going to be dealing with potentially from here back, and we definitely don't clear there. Because if I was to lay a torsion bar in there right now, it would be crashing right in. That doesn't mean this is insurmountable. That just means that what I'm thinking is not going to work. All right, I got to cogitate on this a bit. It requires thinking, and I'm not good at it. So what makes the most sense to me is not use this cross member. I could make it work, but it would require a lot of modification. It's not worth it. Rather, I'll use it as a reference for what I'm going to build. I think what I want to do, yeah, this is going to work really well. Obviously, this will be snuggled way up in here somewhere. This is, I was thinking I was going to have to use a truck pan on this, but I don't think I'm going to have to. I'll use this as my reference because this frame width is a K-frame width. So that's going to be locked down. And what I'll do is I'll make mounts that come off the top of the frame that will clear. Yeah, this K-frame is this way just a little bit. So we got to knock that over just a Nova. Because, yes, absolutely, and it's twisted. It's this way and it's twisted. So there's enough room for a torsion bar to slide through here. This will be the height that we go at. So I can literally put this K-frame back there a ways for reference and fabricate the mounts exactly where I want them. I'll make them come off the top of the frame. They will drop down. There'll be a cross member. It'll come across just like this, but won't be that wide. It'll come across, that mount will be on there, and it'll go back up over the frame. And then the oil pan will fit right in there like it did from the factory, and it'll be snuggled right up in here so that the high rise of the pan up here clears the drag link easily, just like it did on the backside from the factory. So the front of the motor will be right in this area here. The pan will drop down, come back, and let me think. Yes, okay, actually, the front of the pan will be in here. This will be up close, and it'll drop in there. So yes, that will work. That will work. If we have to, we can swap the pan, put a rear sump pan, which is a truck pan, and that'll move that back even further, and that won't be a problem. So I don't foresee anything here that's going to be a showstopper in my thinking. So let me philosophize with you now about why I'm doing this. This is an old school hot rod build. If you're new to the channel, you might be thinking, why would you do all this? Why wouldn't you just go buy? That's the key right there. We don't buy it if we can make it. Old school hot rodding says, you don't need to go out and buy stuff. Look at what you have and put it to use. Be creative. I'm a fabricator. I like making stuff. This is right up my alley. I'm using up a bunch of stuff that's just been taking up space in my warehouse. This slant 6 cross member was actually out back in a junk pile. The V8 cross member looks good to the camera, but it was actually rotted all on the bottom. It was really bad, so I was going to have no problems cutting that up. I don't need to. I'm going to use it as a reference point to determine how I'm building the new K-frame or the new motor mounts. And I think that's going to work really slick. I could potentially, and I still may do this, I could potentially not even put that all the way across and just do like a lot of Chevrolets did where they had ears that came out that the motor mount went on. I like the idea of having a little more rigidity to the frame, and especially coming off the top with the cross member being bolted onto the bottom or even possibly welded on, I'm not sure yet, and then having one that comes across the top that really is going to prevent those frame rails from twisting. So that actually works to my advantage there. The torsion bars will come back to the rear torsion bar cross member. That'll be perfect, and that's the rear transmission mount, so that's easy to figure that out. So yes, we were looking at Dakota, and I had one that was basically going to be free. That didn't come to fruition, and then I discovered the wheelbase was a little bit wide. So then I was looking at possibly an S10 chassis. I had a line on one for, it was a complete truck with a motor and everything for $350. I didn't have the money to buy it, and there was just something inside that said, this isn't right. Either one's going to fall in your lap for almost nothing, like literally for 50 bucks or 100 bucks or for free, or you're going to come up with another solution. We just redid the south warehouse here, and I've been working on redoing the north warehouse, and I've been coming across and realized I have an entire front suspension out of a 76 Valiant here. I haven't found the drag link and tie rods. The drag link and tie rods that I found are out of a 73. They're different. than a 76. The idler, or the idler arm and the pitman arm on the 73 go this way, 76 goes this way. I know that because I tried to put the 76 idler arm in scoops and it was wrong. It wouldn't fit. So I've got to dig around and find those other idler or the drag link and tie rods. If not, I'll have to swap out the pitman arm and the idler arm to other ones that I have here. So anyway, this is all here for just mock up. It can be torn down in 10 minutes and moved, and it's going to have to be because I'm going to continue to do some curly shuffle here in the shop. But yeah, this is where we're at with it. It's pretty darned exciting. I love it. I love it a lot. Wow. Put the hood on to check the dimensions for the firewall because I realized that the motor is going to be back so far. We could have had firewall issues. We're going to be okay. I think we're not going to have to do anything because the truck is up so high. The motor may actually be tucking a little bit under the cab, but the bottom of the cab firewall tapers back like this. So if it doesn't clear, we're only going to have to recess the firewall about 2 or 3 inches, at least by that. I measured the motor height, the width, the motor mount back. I laid a bar here where the firewall was, but I decided to just get a piece of the hood and set it on there. I think it looks cool. We're not probably going to use these lights. I only have this one that's shot anyway. Becky's dad found this one on the farm. It's pretty shot too, but I honestly like the way that nestles right down in there like that. So I'm thinking a couple lights like this may be the way to go. We'll see what we can find. I could metal spin something, but I think it'd be just easier to find some old lights at a flea market or an antique store or something like that. So and I like these were small. I like the size of that. I feel that, and Becky was out here and she said the same thing, that it just kind of fits the beefiness of the truck. This truck, with her standing here, comes up to about her on here, and it's going to be just a little bit taller. So the front of the hood is going to be shoulder height, even though we only have about 10 inches of ground clearance. So that's pretty crazy. She wants it high enough because this is going to probably be her nice weather daily. Rain, shine, not snow, but this is probably going to be what she drives the wheels off of. We do a lot of running for CSAs with the Amish, things like that. And so she's going to run the wheels off this thing. I know she is. I told her, I said, once she gets in this thing, I'm probably never going to see her again. So she's excited about it. I'm excited about it too. So I'm looking forward to getting the shop reset. That's probably going to be coming soon. I'm hoping I can get that done this weekend. This is Friday night, and we'll see what I can get done. But I want to get the Duster moved and get the Oakland moved and other things like that. So, all right, that's going to do it. Thanks for joining me. Oh, we don't know what she's naming this truck, but I am going to name the project Fun Dust for Duster, because it's a Duster drivetrain. Valiant, but close enough. Truck. FunDusTruck. That's what we're going to call the project here. The FunDusTruck. I think that's cool. I can just hear the AC/DC song. You've been FunDusTruck. Yeah, that was cool. So, I don't know, that's a me thing. She won't like it. That's okay. That'll be the project name. That won't be the truck's name. So, thanks for joining me for the FunDusTruck project, and we will catch you on the next one. And don't forget, because it is important, rock!